今日咧，我喺教你堂一個講到聽嘅信息。
Today I want to give you a message of love.
因為咱知啊，已結婚叫做聽嘅結婚。
Because February has always been considered or popularly considered as the month of love.
但是咱講嘅聽唔是普通嘅聽，是上帝嘅聽。
This time we're not talking about any ordinary kind of love. We are talking about divine love.
上帝高對嘅聽。
This is an everlasting love of God.
約翰福音13章第1節，如骨折以前，耶穌知影家己離開世界，歸去天父這個所在，時陣到了。伊既然聽世界屬家己嘅人，伊就聽伊高對。
It was just before the Passover feast. Jesus knew that the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love.
漢文是講聽伊高對。
In the Chinese version, it's loving to the last or an everlasting love.
這個字嘅原本嘅意思是入去完全嘅裡面。
To the last in the original text meant to enter into an ultimate point of perfection.
唔那是聽伊聽到完完全全。
It is not simply a matter of loving, it's a matter of loving completely and perfectly.
這個世界真多聽都是轟轟烈烈的開始，慘慘淡淡的結束。
There are many episodes of love in this world that began with a bang, remarkably, but end with a whimper or miserably.
開始時聽不得了。
In the beginning, it was so passionate, so
但係
much love.
真在聽是用更苦嘅情況裡面，無論是離婚，無論是分開，嚟結束依家嘅婚姻。
But usually, it ended with a whimper, it ended with a divorce and a separation.
第一代表性嘅婚姻就是這個查理斯王子及戴安娜嘅婚姻嘅故事。
The most exemplary instance of this case is the wedding, the marriage of Prince Charles and Princess Diana.
1981年7月29日。
In July 29, 1981,
這個 Prince Charles 及即係 Diana 迄陣只有20歲，喺聖保羅禮拜堂結合查罪夫婦。
Prince Charles married the 20-year-old Princess Diana at the St. Paul's Cathedral.
迄陣請了2650個世界最出名嘅人嚟關咧。
There were 2,650 very important persons who were invited to the wedding.
全世界超過10億嘅人嚟看這個 wedding。
There are more than 100 millions of people watching this wedding event over TV.
喺世界人嘅眼光中間，這個人嘅愛情就親像公主及王子嘅故事相款。
In the eyes of the world people, they seem that this is a perfect fairy tale story.
而係永遠三級做一個，快快樂樂三級做一個。
Where they will live happily ever after.
但是神啊有想到這項代志。
But who could have thought?
10個年以後。
15 years later,
1996年7月10個，
it was July 15, 1996,
呢兩個人正式宣布俾離婚，
they announced their divorce.
結束咗一個人感覺一個真正偉大愛情嘅故事。
And that ended the very story that people have always adored.
但係故事未結束。
But the story hasn't ended yet.
2006年12月14，
In December 14, 2006,
戴安娜及伊嘅新嘅 boyfriend 喺法國發生 car accident， 登吊死喺法國嘅裡面。
Princess Diana and her boyfriend met a car accident in Paris and they died on the spot.
就講你大錯人咁嘅世界，現在聽跌跌落。
It made us wonder, where is true love in this world?
但係其實這個世界有另外一個嚟聽，也是真正讓人真正受感動。
But there's another kind of love in this world that's very compelling, that's very moving.
有種嘅聽是在入到完完全全嘅裡面。
There's really such a kind of love that is complete, that is perfect.
第一代表性嘅故事是這個 Robertson McKinnon 嘅故事。
A very exemplary case is Robertson McQuilkin's story.
這個人是美國哥倫比亞大學校長咗22年嘅時間。
Dr. McQuilkin was president of Columbia University for 22 years.
其實佢真正有成就。
He was at the peak of his achievement then.
特別真多人嘅 invitation 去演講、去駕車、去講學。
Then there were endless invitations for him to speak, to lecture, and to give his words of advice.
當 Robertson 佢進入到這個開幕這個高峰嘅時陣，
So at the point of the peak of his career,
佢宣布 resign，
he resigned from his job
因為佢可憐人對這個老人痴呆症，
because his wife was ailing with Alzheimer's disease.
完全唔不能，
She couldn't recognize anyone.
需要這個人立時點睛嚟照顧
She
佢。
needs someone to take care of her for 24 hours.
羅比森做咗一個真正重要嘅決定，
So Robertson McQuilkin made a very important decision.
佢 resign，
He resigned from his job.
立時點正照顧這個唔不義嘅太太，
So around the clock, he takes care of this wife who doesn't recognize him anymore.
真多人可以真多無相關嘅意見，
Many people gave him various opinions.
你無需要按你創，
He said, you don't really have to do that.
你太太已經唔不義，
Your wife doesn't even know you.
你只係請一個 nurse 立時點正嚟照顧佢，
You could have hired a nurse to take care of your wife.
現在世界需要你，
The world needs you now.
學長需要你，
The university needs you now.
而這個答案真簡單。
He has a very simple answer.
而我同我結婚嘅時陣，
During the time of my marriage,
我哋上嘅頭前立咗一個約。
I made a vow, a promise in front of God.
無論是好嘢，無論是雙向健康，還是破病，順利還是逆境，我要聽伊，我要照顧伊，直到永遠。我現在不陪我嘅太太行人生路尾一段嘅路。
And this is what he said in front of God. For richer or poorer, in sickness or health, for better or worse, I will love her and care for her forever. I will walk with her at the end of life's journey.
我相信真在人結婚嘅中間都 mix 嘅安呢款嘅 promise。
I suppose many of those who are married, they made the same vow to God and to their spouse.
For riches, for or poor, in sickness or in health。
So they made that vow for richer or poorer, in sickness or in health.
但是羅罪人實際嚟到上帝頭前遵守這個約。
But how many people in the face of God really sustain that vow?
羅罪人當你嘅丈夫你太太都到面對一場困難嘅時陣，
How many couples in the break of the trouble in turmoil would do the same thing?
叫做幫助人，叫做幫助人。
May God help us.
但是我哋聽唔是對人嚟嚟聽，
But you very well know that this kind of love had its origin and
人
source
無
in
安呢
God.
款嚟聽，
No human being would have such kind of love.
是我哋聽對上帝嚟嚟聽。
This kind of love is from God.
Robinson 講，我哋上帝頭前安呢講，
So Dr. Robertson McQuilkin said, this is what I said in front of
我
God.
哋遵守啲上帝頭前所立嘅約。
And I shall keep this vow that I made decades back.
咱嚟重新思想上帝這關，可能夠完完全全夠對嘅聽，是只有開始喺你哋生命嘅中間。
So this morning we would like to meditate on this kind of a love that reaches till the very bottom and see how this affects our lives.
為什麼耶穌聽世界人聽夠對呢？
Why do Jesus love his people and love them till the very end?
因為耶穌認定這項代志，門徒是屬於主嘅人。
Because a love that lasts, it accepts the fact that disciples are his very own.
正講耶穌聽屬家己人就聽伊夠對。
The Bible said Jesus loved his very own and he loved them till the very
你
end.
嗱將 John chapter 13 當歸 chapter 讀了以後，
So if you were to read through chapter 13 of John,
呢條聖經講到三項真正重要嘅代志。
there were three very important events that happened.
耶穌為門徒水卡，
Lord Jesus washed your disciples'
耶
feet.
穌設立了聖餐，
Lord Jesus established a Holy
耶
Communion.
穌將一條新嘅命令教學門徒彼此相聽。
The Lord Jesus gave the disciples a new commandment to love one another.
為什麼耶穌創這三項代志？
Why did Jesus do these three things?
第一則有一個真正清楚嘅答案。
There's a very clear answer in the first verse.
耶穌聽世界屬家己人就聽夠對，
Because Jesus, having loved his very own, he loved them till the very end.
因為耶穌認定門徒是乖嘅，
Because he knew that the disciples are his very own.
我要離開咯，
I'm now about to leave.
我要將我嘅聽顯入伊嘅生命嘅中間。
I want to express and reveal my love in their lives.
只會早早是指耶穌17章第6節喺 John 裏面及上帝祈禱嘅話，
It was exactly what Jesus prayed for in John 17:6, where they said,
以及上帝講。
he told Jesus,
用上帝啊，恩本來是你的，但是你已經將恩賜給我。
Jesus prayed to God, they were yours, you gave them to me.
門徒是主嘅，
Disciples, that's Jesus' own.
因為是主嘅
And
，because of it belong to God，
because they belong to God,
所以主聽伊夠對。
and for that reason, Jesus loved them till the very end.
12門徒裏面冇一個是可愛，
Not a single of the 12 disciples of Jesus are lovable.
照人嚟看，大家都冇可愛。
From human point of view, they are all unlovable.
頭一個是彼得，
The first one was Peter.
彼得是12人中間嘅老大。
So he's actually the head of the group.
這個人嘅門徒是叫做大嘴巴，真愛臨審講話。
He's a loudmouth person. He just said things and say it according to what he wanted.